Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today we're going to review OriginTrail. Now, for those who are not familiar with my channel, I do research into a model. That model puts an output. Over time, the result of reality is reflected upon. I reflect upon the result of reality, and I modify the model to have a more accurate output. That is how this channel works. And this is the model of OriginTrail. So what does OriginTrail do? It's a decentralized knowledge graph. So what is a knowledge graph? It is something like this. It is an arrangement of data, a database in a sense, that shows the interrelationships of data points in a graph that, hey, is kind of similar to what my model looks like, but it's data structures, so it's a little bit different than a system, which is, what my model is. My model is a system. A data graph is a knowledge graph is data points that and show their interrelationships. So it is very similar to my model. Knowledge graphs that allow for querying data and discovering patterns, etc. So that's what it is in a rough sense. Organizing assets in a discoverable, verifiable, and valuable way. And this could be assets, on the supply chain process, giving the different stages, giving information along the way. Seamless automatic data connections. Consensus mechanism is to ensure data integrity. That's the point of the consensus mechanism of the OriginTrail. Users of OriginTrail will be developers creating supply chain applications, enterprise resource planning, Internet of Things, and GS1 standards of data. So being able to look up information on things that are in the supply chain that are moving through the OriginTrail data knowledge graph. So this is $1 trillion market, or at least $1 trillion in assets to organize, discover, and verify the different business connections as these, allowing for business software to build, businesses on top of each other. So you can imagine this as different parts of a supply chain, and businesses can change their business structures around the data, saying, oh, like this guy's getting something from somewhere else. It's just valuable, like having all this different information can allow for a business to structure itself in many different ways. We're flying high here. I don't want to get too in the weeds because OriginTrail is, the service company that allows for businesses to make these connections through the knowledge graph. So, you have master data, transaction data, and visibility data. It's basically, like all the different types of data that could be there. So the authentication, product journey, freshness or standards, corporation, CSR compliance, so that's regulatory compliance, optimization of supply chain through mapping, that's what I mentioned kind of earlier, inventory management. So all of these are amazing business. Each one of these could be a business structure that could plug in to the services offered by OriginTrail. So OriginTrail already has a partnership with Scan, which is already doing 1.4 trillion in sales. OriginTrail services the Scan who audits these major companies. And, and I'm sure there's going to be unique business structures that can come out of this. So once again, like how does OriginTrail work? Data jobs are constant. So whatever the market rate is, the token itself is irrelevant to the token price is irrelevant to the cost of data jobs. Nodes put up a stake if they lose that stake if they behave in a malicious way. That's part of the use of the TRAC token. So you can see here, this is this is OriginTrail as an entity, and those who provide data and those who use data, both of them will use the TRAC token. The people who sell TRAC token are the node operators who are servicing this layer. Those who are servicing the data and those who store the data are the nodes, and they are the ones who get paid, TRAC, and they sell it on the market. So that's the negative force, but the positive force is that they stake some in order to provide that service as collateral. Now here's another way of looking at the data flow of OriginTrail. So you have blockchains. Why the data is not stored in the blockchain. The blockchain itself, it doesn't matter which blockchain OriginTrail is built on, but it uses the mechanism of authentications through different incentive mechanisms of the TRAC token. So basically, the blockchain is something that is the mechanism of authentication of the data. That's what the process of the blockchain is. That's the use case of the blockchain. Data automation. Data is the new oil, so that is something we all know is true. That data is only going to, the value of data is only going to continue to increase as our economies become more complex into the future. So this is the market that TRAC is going to be working in, or continually working in. And then people could build their apps on top of the data layer that TRAC is allowing for a marketplace to exist. So that's a rundown, a basic rundown. So now I'm going to go ahead and run in through the model and what the model is expecting. So let's go ahead and do that. So future increased demand for the token. I put yes on that. I put that there will be increase in demand for the token. Regarding social media, I put that it is a relatively early, it's relatively low exposure, which is good. We want something that has low exposure. Price FOMO, I expect that to happen. Regarding the timeline, so there's a bunch of things that they're working on here. I highlighted in yellow the things that I think are interesting. They're integrating into Polkadot, the metaverse search engine, Google for Web3. That's going to be something powerful that will come online soon. New software development kits for the developers that work in this. Metaverse, a decentralized knowledge graph, so that could be powerful. Data query standard API, so allowing for standard API approaches could increase their product levels. As far as their timeline beyond 2022, Decentralized Knowledge Graph 7, which looks like they're going to be focusing on exponential growth at that stage. Asset marketplace for knowledge tools. Token economics, which could also be, that's the type of thing that causes price to pump. But that's in the decent future. And cross-move metaverse search engine. So these are all pretty powerful things. I put that I think, obviously it's difficult to see when price action will happen, but I put something between 6 months to, a pretty big period of time that at any moment it could go for significant price action. They do have their, we are right here. This is month 0 in this timeline. They do have Polkadot auctions pretty soon. And so, but I don't know if that's going to cause any action. That's where you could actually pick the token is the Polkadot auction. But I think the timeline, I think that the biggest things that I think could lead to price action are token economic changes, as well as, the DK, Decentralized Knowledge Graph 7, exponential focus, and all these other things. So these are all pretty valuable things. So the timeline looks pretty good. So I just put that as a good timeline. Regarding inflation, there is no inflation in the long run. And the token supply distribution, 72% of the tokens are in circulation, so these are all good things. Dividend irrelevancy. So staking TRAC on data jobs allows for you to make the TRAC tokens. So it is somewhat of a dividend in that sense, because in order to earn from servicing the layer, you do need to put up that collateral. So there's an ROI to putting up that collateral. So it is somewhat like a dividend. So it should move the P/E ratios at some level. Regarding recent price action, it has not gotten a lot of hype. It's actually underperformed the market, at least in the last year. This is the year graph. So that is good. That means that the people are not paying attention to it. It's had a negative 12.5 return over the last year, whereas the average of cryptos has performed 43% return over the past year. It is not a low market cap, but it is, it's not a super high market cap either. Circulating is 256 million. Diluted is 350 million. Price at 70 cents at the making of this video. Token on sell side to decrease. I think that could be the case. So those are all things that could lead to price performance. Money move decrease. All right. So regarding governance, the vision is permissionless service layer of Web3. So that's basically the vision. And it's extremely important that you trust the company because it is a low centralized, it's not super decentralized in the sense of governance. I'm just talking about governance. When I'm talking about how decentralized it is, the actual platform, the nodes that service the service layer are decentralized, but the governance decisions, where resources are spent, are from the company that runs this, the Trace Labs. So it does require some level of trust. But these people have been working for 8 years. That's why all this stuff is green. IP token must be ultimate control. It is not really. But the token is not the ultimate mechanism of control, but it is a critical component of OriginTrail functionality. And they have been working on this for 8 years. So once again, I don't think it's going to be them running off with the business model or just running off to do something new. I don't think that's the case. That's why everything is green on the governance side of things. Regarding the evidence that the management is trustworthy, once again, I just put all this as green because of the time committed, how they've been doing this for 8 years. That's unusual in the crypto space. A lot of the projects are younger than that. And they also have really strong partnerships and a long-term perspective. So I put the leadership as an 8, which is strong. And they're consistent and continually develop. The team is backed by Coinbase and Twitter, VC, Greg Kidd, and Bob Metcalf. This is a very important character. 300 million estimated net worth of Bob Metcalf. He's an extremely smart fund manager, but he also came up with Metcalf's law. So he's a guy who understands the network effect in internet technology and how to grow businesses, or at least he should have some interesting perspective on that. And he has consulted with this company, so that is a pretty amazing resume of advisors right there. And you can see that there's 8 years, 10 years, and 8 years for these different founders working on the project. For Ziga, Drev, Thomas, Livak, these people working on this OriginTrail even before the TRAC token existed. So they've been working in supply chain management for a while. And that consistency, I personally think is a strong thing. They're making their livelihoods about making the supply chain process more efficient, which is pretty interesting that they've been doing for so long. Strategic partnerships and backers. So they're part of, they're going to be integrating into Polkadot, Kala, and Parity, and BSI Pharmaceuticals, the British standards in numbers or whatever the BSI stands for. It's the British side of pharmaceuticals. It was a company that they partnered with recently. And Oracle was the second largest software company in the world. They also partnered with them. Also, with those. Here they are right here. You can see the partnerships: BSI, Walmart, GSI, Akala, Web3 Foundation, NGI, World Economic Forum. These are a pretty big organization right there. And Oracle is a pretty big. So that they're gonna. It looks like these guys might actually be the leaders. I know there's VeChain, but I actually think this company might be the leaders in the supply chain management for blockchain space because of their partnerships, even though they don't have a market cap that's the size of VeChain. So token used for services. Let's go over some of the basics. It is used for compensation of operations. Node operation services is collateral, so the token it's locked for collateral. It's also locked for jobs. So there's an ROI basis for that, and it's used for data markets. So the token is used for the essentials of the platform. Now, the value of the target market, which we're talking about, is Google level for enterprise efficiency of the supply chain processes, so supply chain standards, data markets. And plugging different businesses into that is extremely valuable. There's countless business models that could allow for people to thrive by plugging into if there's open, transparent supply chain processes, people could plug their businesses in and create more efficiencies over time in those industries. So that's extremely powerful, extremely large business. I think data is the new oil. I don't think that's just a saying. I think that's actually a meaningful statement. And so that is a very large target market. Let's see here. Okay, so exponential growth. They do have exponential growth. They have a live product. Mainnet was in 2018. Their working product has been growing, and they're acquiring more and more customers. It appears the first mover advantage. I do think they have the first mover, even though there's other competitors. I think that these guys might be the leader in the space. Widely accepted standards will be sticky. So they will have a moat. Those who get accepted in their standards or those businesses that become part of the system will likely be stuck in those systems or will have a preference for sticking with it. Strategic service upgrades, so the flywheel. I do think, as Metcalf's law states, that as they get more network effect, it has a feedback effect on the value of the system. And regarding VeChain, VeChain stores its data on the blockchain. I think this one does not. I think that is a more powerful approach. So the best option in the competition, I personally think that is the case. Okay, so developer experience, developer motivation, high value upgrades. All of these things look to be strong because the main company will be funding developer experience. They have a software development kits on the horizon. And this company is going to be, querying data sets, and people will be paying for that. So they will make it accessible to those developers who want to build apps. So developers are their main target audience, and there is a company that is backing this. So it's basically like employees, and whatever money they raise, they will obviously point in the direction of this as they continue their growth. So all those developer components look to be strong. Value of services to increase. I think they will continue to upgrade and increase all those things. Develop user experience. Once again, those developers, so they will continue to focus on that. So network effect, tokens per person. I think all those things look strong. Fees up earn token. There's no mechanism for that. Major onboard. Once again, it is those partnerships that I mentioned. Oracle is the second biggest software company in the world. So there's major partnerships. So they do have that. And all that feeds into large business models that demand token to reflect their needs. I think that is going to be the case for service provider companies who make businesses data processor median. So they do have a structure that I think is good for businesses to demand their token, because businesses will want to be service providers as part of the component of their apps in many cases, or etc. So that they will want to because it brings them closer to the flow of value that the app is operating on. So there could be good integrations there. So I think it has a good structure for getting businesses to buy their token. So that is the model review. As far as for my Patreon group, I go over my specific actions, the decisions I make with this model. But the last thing that I'm going to mention here is the summary. And it is a low market cap with accomplished CEO. I put no. Early to social media, I put yes. Live niche, I put yes. And the pros: many improvements in roadmap, long time commitment from the team, A+ advisors, large market and partnerships, many good partnerships, and the token has no governance, is a con. That could be seen as pro or con. And, the long time commitment could also be seen as pro or con, because you could be like, oh, well, maybe they're losing their creativity. But I don't think that's the case. But yeah, these are the things that I put as a summary. All right, once again, I'll hit up the patrons now and do my personal actions based on this model's output.